You are still with us on Economic Bus. We're still doing our discussion about Eurozone financial crisis and its impact toward Indonesian economy. Mr. Vicky, what's been happening currently in Eurozone? Has the credit crisis there in Europe already, can we say, hit the bottom? Or, as you said, the movie is yet to come, just only trailer?
Exactly, but no, definitely not. Definitely not. We still, I mean, in the PIGS region, which is Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Spain and Portugal, basically, these regions are still yet to be dealt with. The only country we have dealt with so far is Greece. In fact, Greece bondholders who bought at par, at 100, who have gone through the whole restructuring, made a loss of 78.5% of the investment. So it was a very brutal investment for people who had exposure to Greece. But like I said, we still have to deal with PIIG, which is Portugal, Italy, Ireland, and Greece is done, Spain is left, basically. So as long as the European leaders can provide comfort that they're providing the liquidity, government spending is there, the countries are reducing their debt slowly, then this can be done in a nice, orderly manner. But will Spain and Portugal face default situations or haircuts on their bonds? Yes. There is a high probability that even Portugal will have to go through a restructuring like Greece did. In fact, Greece investors are still not convinced of the Greece restructuring. After Greece made a haircut of 53%, they extended the maturity of the bonds, and they also lowered the coupons paid on the bonds. Still, in Greece, bonds are still trading at all-time lows. So people still have a fear that even though Greece is sorted out, they're not convinced that 3-4 years down the line, Greece will ask for more money and more help, basically, bailout funds. So yes, we have to be on our toes watching the European crisis, but I think the governments will eventually go through it. But sometimes I'm asked the question, how long will this take? I think the European nation or the European Union can lose a decade in the debt crisis. So 10 years will just go by of very minimal growth, reducing debt and trying to come out of this crisis.
PIIG, we haven't talked about Italy. Share with us about Italy, your view. How do you see Italy so far?
Italy is a very sensitive region. It is a big portion of the European Union. Italian yields are now ranging in about 5%. But the thing is about the European countries such as Italy, Spain, Portugal, every week they're doing bond auctions, raising 2 billion, raising 5 billion, 8 billion euros. So they continuously need debts, raise debts to pay out the old debts. And what is essential is the yield that they have to pay. Because like now, for example, Italian yields at 5%. So if you want to issue a new bond, the premium you have to pay is 5%, which is okay at these levels. But recently the Italian yields have gone to as high as 7.5%. If the yields, if there is the sentiment in the market goes negative and the yield goes up to 7 or 8%, the problem is that Italy will have to pay a very much higher coupon. And if they have to pay a very high coupons, Italy can become insolvent over a period of time. So it's very important to maintain the consumer sentiment to be positive and yields to remain low. But if the yields start going up, we're going to see panic in the markets, we're going to see correction in the equity markets, we're going to see strength in the dollar, correction on the gold, the euro, Aussie dollar, and other high-yielding currencies.
What it takes into consideration when we're talking about maintaining the consumer sentiment to be positive all the time?
You have to make them believe that the market can, the governments can handle the debt crisis. Because if you notice, the market is just about consumer sentiment. If the sentiment is positive, good stocks, losing stocks, everything, investments, properties, everything goes up because sentiment is positive. Everyone is doing well, everyone is making money. But if sentiment becomes negative, people stop lending money to each other, growth reduces, right? Then that's not good. Because then what happens? Sentiment becomes negative, nobody wants to invest, people start selling, there becomes a panic in the market and everything starts falling down.
How stable do you see the global consumer sentiment so far?
I see the global sentiment in terms of Europe, the consumer confidence reducing, but in terms of US, Australia, China, consumer confidence are still at decent levels. So I see Europe going through a mild recession. I think US will still be okay for this year. China, yes, they've had a very good growth, so they're going to have slower growth, but still positive growth. Indonesia, of course, I expect still GDP growth of 6%. So at least maybe for investors who are worried over this year, I do not see any major panic, at least until the second to third quarter of this year.
It is said that China is experiencing the slower growth.
Yeah, manufacturing growth.
And is it right that they are the most impacted country toward what happened in Eurozone at this time?
Well, they have a fair percentage of exports to Europe, definitely much higher than the 10% mark in Indonesia. So definitely they will be affected, and part of the reason of the slow manufacturing growth is blamed to Europe. So yes, there will be an impact, and there could be further impact to China as well. But again, China has also, the China government has also mentioned that we will take easing measures. They will reduce the RRR, reserve requirement ratio for banks, so banks don't have to keep enough, don't have to keep as much cash in the banks. They can lend out to the corporates. So again, the banks have to play the role of spending money, keeping unemployment rates low, reducing debt. They have to do their job as well. Like for example, in Hong Kong, after the 2008 crisis in 2009, the Hong Kong government was giving out 50 Hong Kong dollar vouchers for people to spend money, free vouchers. So you have to do that. You have to stimulate the economy.
All right, Mr. Vicky, we are going to continue with this one. Economy Bus moving back soon with more view from Mr. Vicky Amarnani.